Good afternoon, guys. Today we're going to be working on the door skin, so I'll show you what we're going to be doing with that one. As you can see, there's a few dents in this one, so we're going to have got metal finishing those ones, and yeah, as you can see with this one, I've already ran the file over it. I'll just use this. It's just some people call them a flipper, some people call them a slapper. Either. I mean, they are a file at the end of the day, so you have to be a little bit careful not to file too much. But yeah, that's just what I've used to go over that with, so something like that. But yeah, anyway, I'll show you guys how I get that dent up. So, not sure how well you guys can see that in the video. So I'm going to circle just the outline of where the file hasn't touched. So there's one right here, and there's a little one right here as well. Now, what I'm going to start with is this dolly right here. I forget what they call this one. I think it might be a universal dolly, something like that. But as you can see, it's got a bit of crown into it, so that'll match that shape quite well. And what I'm going to do first is, because this isn't a very major dent, I mean it is just a small little like shopping trolley dent, I'm going to put this one underneath, and I'm going to hold a bit of pressure on, and I'm just going to tap around to sort of raise that dent up. And what that's doing is that will stretch the metal just a little bit, but that'll also correct the low spot. Come up a little bit, tape's falling off. That's what that noise was. Now that that's come up just a little bit, you might not be able to see it on the video, but I'm going to go to a slightly more higher crown dolly. This way I'll get a little bit more precise. Just because the area has gotten a little bit smaller now. Something there, I'll give you guys a little bit of a better look at that. As you can see, the bigger one's almost gone. I mean, you can just see a little bit of my texture line. Now, sort of what we're left with is just a little bit of a about where the scratch was in the dent. So probably the sharpest point of it. But the rest of that's flush now. So I mean, it's just that little line just there now. Not sure how well you guys can see that. Oh, there's a good shot of it, see that one just there. So that's really all we can see now. But what I'm going to do is I'll get the corner of this one, so this dolly here, and I'm going to come up from underneath, and I'm just going to rub this corner just on the back side of that line just there. Alright, so this is the back side of the door now. What I've done here is I've just scratched a little bit over the line with the dolly, so now you can see where I'm going to be rubbing the dolly, and I'm going to rub the last little bit of that dent out. So again, I'll come in with the texter, just going to draw a line just over that, just so you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to get my dolly. And just with a little bit of force, just going to press down on that texture line. And that should file up now. So anyway, that's one way to do a dent. To get it to a pretty high standard like that one. Not that that one was really anything major, nor is it really anything really that difficult, but the process is all still the same. Now, another way of doing it, very similar, but instead of using a file, we're going to use a nice hard sanding block. So this one is a rigid Big Kids block, and I'll show you guys how we can get this one out with using the block as the guide. So again, same process. I have some 120 grit on this block. Okay, now that one's all sanded up, we can see that the block sort of revealed that the dent's sort of around through here. We have a little bit through here, but I think what that might be is when I've unpicked the skin, there's still a little bit of a high spot right here, right where that spot weld is. Obviously, if you are going to refit this skin back to a car, I wouldn't necessarily worry about that too much, because when you clamp the skin back down onto the frame and you hammer that lip back over, that would come out. So I'm not really too fussed or too stressed about that. I might dress it down just a little bit, just with a hammer, with a dolly underneath, and just tap on that little bit of a high spot. But for now, I think that can stay. What we're just going to be focusing on is this line is a little bit low through here. We have a bit of a low spot through here. Okay, so I've marked out the dent where that is with a little bit of a texter, just to sort of give me a little bit of a map line, and so you guys know where we're working. And now what I'm going to do is this is a finishing hammer, so it has a very flat crown on it. It has got a little bit of paint on it. That's all right. We can scratch that off. Anyway, I'm going to use this on the back side of the panel, just because this one is a little bit too far in to planish up like we did with the other one. Reason I'm using a finishing hammer for this one is because the area here doesn't have a whole lot of crown in it. And what I mean by crown is hasn't got a very large radius to it, so it has got a very low crown is what we'd call that. And again, what I've got here is just another dolly. This one has a very slight crown. Not sure how you can see that. But I might alternate between this way and also on the flat side as well. So I might just move the camera back just a little bit, and just so I don't bump it too much, and we'll start working this one out. Doing with the dolly is where before, as with this one, where I was really pushing up on that panel and tapping like this with the flipper. With this, I'm because I'm tapping up to the dolly, I'm going to let the dolly bounce a little bit, and what that'll do is that will limit the amount of hammer marks in the actual panel, but it also won't do the reverse of what I did with this one, where it will actually stretch the metal the opposite way to what I wanted to work. Get our block again. I can see that we've come up here, so that one's a little bit better. A few little spots through here. I can see where the block has just touched a few little spots here and there, but what we're going to do now is keep going the way that we were going, just to get it up just a little bit higher, not a whole lot. Alrighty, as you can see, we've still got a few little low spots. There's a little low spot here. There's a few little low spots through here. Now that we've got it up to the stage where it's almost sort of flush with the rest of the panel, we can now go back with the other process of the hammer over dolly, and we can just raise up these little spots a little bit more accurately that way. All right, again, I've marked out where the low spots were with the texter. I've got my my high crown dolly, so this one right here. As you can see, it's got a lot of crown in it because it's very raised in the middle. Find the dolly. And I might need to strap this down. Okay, take two. Got a little bit of a strap on there. That's just holding a little bit of tension on the panel so it's not wobbling all over the place. I think because that one's a little bit too close to the body line, we might have to switch to another method for that one. So again, I'll get this fella right here. I'm gonna use this end of the dolly. Just because it's so close to that body line with the other one, it's holding up on the corners, up through on the body line here. So this one should be able to fit in there for that. So again, getting a little bit closer with some of these little spots. I think what I'll end up finishing it off with is probably the with the slapping file and the universal dolly I had before, same one I used over here. Just because it is very close and there's not a whole lot of these spots might look like they are very deep, but they're not. Like, I think I could probably cover these with maybe 2 or 3 coats of polyester spray filler, and you know, I could block those out. That's how minor they are. They are very shallow, so I think, yeah, probably the safest way to go for this one, and probably the quickest, is the slapping file and just that very sort of low crown dolly for this area. That one's all finished off, or as close as I want to get it anyway. There's still a few little spots. These little spots right here, I find with a sanding block they won't come out because I've used the slapping file there, the little pit marks that it leaves. And yeah, obviously the 120 grit won't remove those, but as you can see, it's definitely skimmed over the top of them, so I must be pretty close. I went over this with 120 as well, and I mean, you can just see it now. It's got a little bit more shine to it. You can still see a little bit of something going on right there, but it's definitely not too bad. Again, I think that might just be the scratch that's actually in the metal. I think when I go over that with the orbital, that'll come out, so I'm not really too worried about that. As you can see, the rest of the metal condition, like the condition of the metal, is not completely flawless, that's for sure. Obviously, this has been sitting around for a little while, and I've got it a little bit wet, touched it with sweaty hands, and like just then, I just spat on it. That's all right. But yeah, it's coming around, as you can see. Look, that looks all right, I think. Now, still a few little more to do, but I think the thing that you guys probably want to see the most is replacing this lower skin. So I'll dig out some sheet and we'll fold one of them up. Okay, so I've decided how much of the lower skin I want to replace, and that's about 140 mil. So from the bottom edge up. And what I've also done is I've measured from the bottom edge of this skin to these spots right here. So from there to here is 430 mil. And then the back of the skin, again, I've measured from the corner from here to this one right here. What I did was I just went diagonally. Probably not the most accurate, but it'll give me sort of a close enough sort of measurement. But yeah, what I'll also do is I'll make a little bit of a template I'll start from about here, and then that way it can give me the shape. So I'll mark sort of where my template starts or whatever. I'll put a little bit of a marker around that, and then that way that'll give me something so I can sort of put my template to, and then that'll give me the distance between wherever it is from the template top to the bottom of the skin. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, if you want me to, I'll explain it a little bit further in the comments. But yeah, that's sort of where I'm at the moment. Hopefully I've got enough steel here. This is just not my most preferred, but it's zinc anneal sheeting, so it has got a zinc coating to it. This is what I've got at the moment. Like most of you probably know, steel is bloody expensive. Well, currently it is anyway. But yeah, so that's it's what I've got. I don't really want to go out and buy some more just for this project. I've used this stuff before. It's fine. It welds a little bit crap. Not too bad, but yeah, like I said, this being like cold rolled mild steel, this welds a lot nicer than say what this stuff would. But again, not really worth going out and buying a whole other sheet of steel for. That's what I'm getting at. But anyway, what I'm going to do first is I will make a little bit of a paper template just of this. So here's our template. Like I said before, just something as a little bit of a guide. I thought I might as well use the paper template for this anyway, because this will give us our length. I know we need to replace 140 mil, so what I'll do is I'll mark this out on the sheet of steel, and then I'll come up the 140 mil from the bottom corner, and then that'll give us our height for the patch panel that we need to make. And then once we have that, our patch panel made up and tacked in, I can then set these lines up with the texture and the tape off the paper, and that'll give us our correct length for the door skin, so we don't make the door skin too short or too long. Anyway, I think we've got some weather coming in, so I'm going to pack up real quick, and hopefully I'll be able to get back into this soon. So it's the next day, the template's all finished off. Now all we need to do is transfer it onto the flat sheet, and then we can start folding up our lower door skin. So we've got the door skin laid out. You might notice that I don't have the flange around the edges. What I do here, I stole this trick from Aidan Hunt. A lot of you guys might know him. What he does, or what I've seen him do before, is he'll mark out how big his flange is on a ruler, on a steel ruler, and then he'll mark it off with some masking tape. So that's what I've done here. As you can see, it's 5, 6, 7, 8 mil. I'm going to add an 8 mil flange all the way around. Here we have it. That's the door skin all cut out, or lower half anyway. Our little patch panel. What I've done on the corners here is I've just basically I went from the center of the corner, marked it up with one of the lines on the roller, so it gave me a little bit of a point to go off of, and then just cut that on a 45-degree angle. So when I fold these two flanges in, they will come into a point. They won't want to overlap on themselves or, do anything funny like that. So this is the back side of the panel. As you can see, all my lines are marked out. I redid this method sort of on the back side, obviously lining up the end of my roller with the end of the panel. And then I just drew two little dots either side of the roller in a few spots. And then that gives me my my flange, because obviously we're going to be folding these in back on themselves. So yeah, need to mark those out on the back side. So we've got our lower patch panel made up. As you can see, it's got the flanges all folded in on them. It's looking pretty good, but problem is it's flat. So as you can see with this one, put this on here, and we've got a little bit of rocking because obviously this has got curve to it and this doesn't. So what we're gonna have to do here is we're gonna have to do a light little bit of shrinking just along these edges. We're all done with the shrinker stretcher. Didn't really need a whole lot on this panel. As you can see, it's just sort of just enough to sort of give that a little bit more of a raise just there. Okay, so you're probably wondering what the hell this is. I've just made up a little bit of a channel. Obviously this is going to have a lot of strength in it. Like, you're not going to be able to burn that in a hurry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this fella and I'm going to just tack him in a few places. So when I trim this off, it will hold the panel straight, and I don't really have to worry about it sinking in the middle or bowing or any of that, funny stuff. Okay, so we've got the MIG set up. Here's my settings. Again, this one normally just run on the 1, and that one for, I think I've got 0.9 wire at the moment, so yeah, a little bit just over the 2. Gas, I like to run about 12 or 13 litres per minute. It's really all there is. Some people will like crank this up to, 15, 20, but it's not needed. People think more gas equals better weld, but no, it doesn't work like that. But anyway, I'm just going to tack this one into place where I need it, and then we'll get into cutting the lower skin off. So I have the panel clamped into place. I've got a fat textile line there, so that way I can line that up where I want it. Then I can scribe that line, and then I'll cut just a little bit from that line. I won't cut directly through it because I don't want a big gap. I'd rather have too much on this panel and have to then trim it back rather than have to try and fill up a big wide gap. All right, would you look at that? Doesn't that just look great? It does, and then you pull this fella out. Okay, so might have to switch hands with this one. Put him on the top of my line there. And it's out by 5 mil. That's why it's important to check this sort of stuff, like I checked this before filming, so I know it's from that line it is 435 mil to the bottom edge here. So in case you're wondering, it might not be that accurate on the film, but I know for a fact because I looked at it without the film, So yeah, that's why you always got to pay attention with this sort of stuff, because before you know it, you've got no gap to your sill panel, and the door skin doesn't fit on the frame because it's too long. That's why it's really important to check that sort of stuff. So rather than trim across the whole way, I've overlapped this just by a little bit. It'll only be a couple mil. I've taken my cutting disc and I've just sliced a little bit just out of these corners here. So either side. I've moved up the panel. I've got my correct measurement from this point here to this point here. Same again with back here to here. So 490 from this one to here, and then 430 from this one to here. Now what I can do, I've scrubbed my line across back here again, and I'm just gonna, obviously I'll take the panel off again, and then I'll just grind back just to that the scribe line. So that way it'll be a perfect fit. So the panel is all clamped into place. Everything is flush fitting where the clamps are. I do need to readjust these edges right here. As you can see, this one is a little bit too long. I did that on purpose just because I wanted to show you guys that it is possible to recorrect these 90-degree bends here. And just because it was a lot quicker just to put that into the pan brake and just, you know, bend it a straight bend, you know. This one's not too bad, but I'm going to explain to you guys why I would start in the middle on a panel like this. Is because if you start on the corners, if you tack here and here, what's going to happen is you've locked them in place and you're going to have all the excess metal built up in the middle. So you have to work your way outwards. And then, because if you get this part of the panel straight, this part of the panel straight, and then you get to here, that's a lot more controllable than say if you tacked it here and here, and then, you know, you have to, you know, manipulate this whole area through the center of the door skin. Like that will just cause you a nightmare. So yeah, that's my tip. Start in the middle, work your way out, and yeah, things will go a lot smoother for you. So now we have the lower skin tacked in. We've got the taxel ground down. I used a flat disc, and then I used my little roll lock with an old 36 grit disc on it. As you can see, the fitment is very good. I've got a few little spots where I just need to bump those up a little bit, and you'll see there's a reason why I have the ruler here. Is that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. As you can see, it's got a little bit of a low spot through there. It's not much. This one's a little bit bigger, I reckon. Just through that little corner just there. There's a good shot of it. There you go. So before we go any further, we're really going to have to bump those up first, and I'll show you guys how I do that. The little bit of a waviness through here, that is not from the weld distortion, okay? That is just from the clamping process of getting the panel to sit flush. And sometimes what will happen with a panel like this is you'll clamp it here, you'll clamp it here, you'll clamp it here, you'll clamp it here, and you'll get a little bit of a wave just from the weight of the clamp pulling down on the panel itself. You have to remember, this is only 1 mil steel. Like there's not a whole lot of strength in a panel like this. So yeah, that's not weld distortion pulling the panel in and out of shape like that. All the bumping's been done. I just focused just on the join itself. I didn't, there's no need to, come down here or up here or anything like that. Just focus on the join. Mark out where the low spots start and finishes. You might notice there's a line in between here and here because there was a low spot between this line here and this line here. But when I started straightening it out, this part straightened out quicker than what this part did. So yeah, don't get those two confused. But yeah, now that we've straightened that out, you can see that there's a little bit just on the ends. Now I'm not worried about that because I still haven't tacked down there, but you can just see, like there's not much going on through there at all. I could spend a little bit more time on this, but I think I will just go ahead and weld this anyway, because I'm sure I'm going to have to be doing a little bit of panel beating to straighten out any weld distortion. Like I was saying before, you're not going to get any real distortion from just little tacks like this. There's really not a whole lot of heat in this. Like, again, I was bouncing around. I was, not heating up one area too much. I was just focusing on just getting the panel tacked in place. Hopefully you guys can see that it's still not quite perfect down here, but I mean, that can easily be fixed. We'll get our dolly. Tuck him around just a little bit. Now the patch panel was still a little bit too proud to the original door skin, so I'm gonna bump him down. Sometimes I just need a little bit of manipulation. So I think with a little bit of pushing and pulling, that one will come around. And we'll do this one. Okay, so we can see this one sort of follows its own line before it even gets to this one. So what we're going to do, we're going to get our dolly, just going to hold it just a little bit back from that line. Now that we've sort of got that line just a little bit closer, we can put them hard up against the both of them, push out just a little bit. And now that's in line with each other. So we're all welded in. The welds don't look too pretty, but I mean, at the end of the day, they are only just tacks. Like, you're not running beads or anything like that on sheet metal, so that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with this. A little bit more consistent would have been nice, but I think that's just the difference between welding mild and also the zinc sheeting. Again, like, there's no real downsides of it I have found. It's just your welds don't turn out as quite nice as welding mild to mild. But yeah, at the end of the day, like, it is just steel. It's just got a coating on it. There's nothing, real bad about it. And, 95% of this coating on the steel will get stripped off when when we get the rest of the skin ready for epoxy. So it's, again, there's no real dramas later down the track. We'll flip this one over, and so on the inside, there's no shortage of penetration. I did have a little spot here where I blew through, but that's not a drama. Just a little bit more excess on the back side. But yeah, as you can see, like, there's definitely no shortage of penetration here. I'll probably end up linishing just some of this off, just to sort of flatten it off just a little bit, just so it's not so unsightly when we come to put the sound deadening spray on the inside. So anyway, I'll show you guys what I'm going to be grinding it with. To start off with, I'm going to be using just a grinding stone. So as you can see, I like to get my use out of these stones. I'm not going to be using it like this. I'm going to be using it like this, because what I want to do is I just want to focus on just taking down this weld. I don't want to touch this panel, and I don't want to touch this panel. I just want to focus just on knocking the tops of the welds off. So I've gone over the welds with the grinding stone. Now what I'm going to go over with next is a used 60 grit flat disc. So we're starting to get somewhere with this one now. As you can see, I've sort of kept it in the same motion, didn't change directions or anything like that. I wasn't, you know, grinding up this way. I was just following the weld. That's all I was doing. I might have ran a little bit over here, but that was just because there was some splatter and stuff that I just wanted to clean up first. I usually like to pick up any of my little small, I might have a few pinholes here and there, or I might have had a few little gaps that I didn't quite get enough weld on. So you can see one just there, another one just there, just, you know, little stuff just like that, you know. There's another one just there, very minor. I like to pick them up at this stage now before I switch to the 36 grit on the roll lock, and then afterwards I'll finish up with a new 36 grit on the roll lock. And then we can start blending in this area, and then we can start straightening any minor distortion out. So there we have it. The lower skin is welded on. We've taken off our little strengthening ridge that we put in. And I mean, as you can see, like, that's finished off with 36 grit. So it's a little bit rough at the moment. But you also have to remember, I have not put a hammer and dolly on this since that first time when we just had it tacked in place. So that's looking pretty good as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to go over this with 80 grit, and then I'm going to bump up any ripples and, you know, just trying to get it a little bit nicer, you know. Not perfect, just a little bit nicer. There was a little dent back here that I never did anything with, but I'll fix that up now. There's a few other little bits and pieces that I need to weld up, like these little holes where I drilled through. I wouldn't mind tidying up some of these little holes just from where I undid the spot welds. But yeah, that's sort of later down the track. But anyway, I haven't forgotten about this one just yet. So I'm gonna put you guys on the tripod and we're gonna see if this fits. So, the moment of truth. Let's get this one. We'll line him up with texture lines. Come up a little bit more. Cut him down. Bang on down the bottom. So we got our length right. Sides aren't too bad. So a little bit, might need to readjust this edge just a little bit, but nothing a whole lot. I think that's looking pretty good. This sort of fitment I would probably do on the car. So obviously readjust your final fitment of the edges once you got the skin on the door frame. You have it bolted on the car. You can sort of work your edges around, that sort of thing, get it to where you want it to be. That way you can sort of finalise your gaps off your panels. And yeah, but I mean, for now, this one's fine. I'm extremely happy with how this one's turned out. Like I said, I'm gonna go over the rest of the panel, take out some of these harsher scratches, and yeah, sort of get the metal stage completed with this one using the same methods that we used up here and here. And yeah, that can probably wrap us up. But anyway, I'm going to do that, and I'll give you guys a bit of a look at the final product. Just thought I'd bring the panel outside now that I've finished it, just to really just show it off, because I mean, you know, you can't beat that, can you? Like, that is a nice finish in my opinion, but again, might be biased. This is obviously what come off of it. That's the bottom lip there. Nice crunchy inside. So that's a wrap up for this video, guys. If you enjoy watching this sort of stuff, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. It really helps the channel out, and it helps me make this sort of content for you guys. I really enjoy making it, and hope to bring more in the future. Cheers.